Something is wrong.
Hold on to us, always.
Another one of these letters.
I will not let them scare us away.
Tell your husband, no more rubbish.
Let's start from the beginning and talk about everything that happened in episode 6, because before we can fully understand where episode 7 is going, we need to understand exactly where we just came from. And honestly, episode 6 gave us one of the most layered and emotionally complex versions of Jamie Fraser we have seen in a very long time. After the treacherous attack on Jamie, the situation at Fraser's Ridge was incredibly tense. These were men who had turned against him, men who had looked him in the eye and then chosen violence. And Jamie's first instinct, which was completely understandable, was to send every single one of Cunningham's men away. He did not want them anywhere near Fraser's Ridge. He did not want to give them the chance to regain their strength and come back to hurt him or the people he loves again. That reaction made complete sense. These men had betrayed him. They had shown exactly who they were. And Jamie Fraser has lived long enough to know that when someone shows you who they are, you believe them. But then something shifted. The wives came forward. These were women who had nothing to do with what their husbands had done. They apologized on behalf of men who probably should have been apologizing themselves. And they asked Jamie to let them stay. They were not asking for forgiveness for the betrayal. They were simply asking not to be punished for something they did not choose. And Jamie, being the man that he is, listened. He did not react with pride or ego. He listened with his heart. And in the end, he made a decision that showed exactly why people follow Jamie Fraser so fiercely and so loyally. He let them stay, but he did not let them stay without conditions. He collected all their weapons, which was the smartest thing he could have done, because an unarmed man is a far less dangerous man. He made them swear loyalty to him, which meant that if they ever broke that vow again, everyone would know exactly what kind of men they truly were. And most importantly, he put the lease agreements under the wives' names, not the husbands, the wives. Think about what that actually means. It means those women now have power. It means those treacherous men cannot make a single major decision about their land without their wives being the ones in charge. Jamie essentially took the power out of the hands of the people who abused it and gave it directly to the people who never would. That was not just mercy, that was wisdom. That was strategy wrapped inside compassion, and it was one of the most satisfying moments of the entire episode. And then there was Mr. Cunningham. Instead of keeping him prisoner, which many people in Jamie's position would have done without a second thought, Jamie allowed him to go to England. Miss Cunningham had requested it, and Jamie honored that request. He did not hold on to that man out of anger or a need for control. He simply let him go, and again that decision says everything about where Jamie is emotionally in this season. He is not a man driven by revenge. He is a man driven by something much harder to hold on to, which is the genuine desire to do what is right, even when what is right is also what is difficult. But here is where things get complicated, and this is the part of episode 6 that I have not been able to stop thinking about since I watched it. Benjamin Cleveland. Jamie called on him for support, and yes, Benjamin Cleveland is powerful. There is no question about that. He is a serious commander with serious influence. But the moment Jamie accepted that support, he created a debt, and debts in Outlander never come without a cost. We know from history, from the books, from everything this show has been quietly building toward, that Benjamin Cleveland played a significant role in the Battle of Kings Mountain. And that battle is the exact place where Jamie is supposed to die. So the question is not whether Benjamin Cleveland is going to pull Jamie toward that battle. The question is how far Jamie will be able to resist when the time comes. Because right now, with that debt hanging over his head, Fraser's Ridge may feel peaceful on the surface. But underneath that peace, something is already moving, something that Jamie cannot yet see. And that is exactly the kind of danger that this show does best. Now let's talk about William and Ben, because what happened between them in episode 6 was one of the most layered confrontations of this entire season, and it deserves a very careful look. From the moment William told Ben what had happened between him and Amaranthus, we knew it was not going to end quietly, and it did not. The fight that followed was serious and raw, and full of the kind of anger that only comes when something deeply personal has been broken. But beyond the fight itself, what came out of that conversation was something far more interesting than just two men arguing over a woman. We learned that it was Amaranthus herself who gave Ben the idea to pretend he was dead. She was the one who planted that thought. The one who made it possible for Ben to disappear from the world and let everyone believe he was gone. And at the time, that might have seemed like she was protecting him, like she was trying to keep him safe from the consequences of switching to the American side. But when you look at it more carefully, a very different picture starts to form. Because Amaranthus knew Ben was alive. She knew the whole time. And while she knew he was alive, she allowed herself to grow close to William. She did not keep her distance. She did not hold herself back out of loyalty to Ben. She moved toward William with full knowledge of what she was doing. So what does that tell us? It tells us that the plan for Ben to fake his death was not just about protecting Ben from discovery. It was about Amaranthus creating distance from Ben. It was about her quietly stepping away from that relationship without ever having to directly say that she wanted out. She found a way to let Ben disappear so that she could breathe again, so that she could exist without him. And whether she fully admitted that to herself or not, her actions in the time since speak very clearly. When Ben realized that William and Amaranthus had grown close during his supposed death, his reaction was not sadness. It was not hurt in a quiet or reflective way. It was anger. Sharp, possessive anger. He took William prisoner, which tells you everything you need to know about how Ben sees the people around him. To him, Amaranthus is not someone who gets to make her own choices. She is something that belongs to him, and William, by being close to her, had taken something that Ben considered his. That is not the reaction of a man who loves someone. That is the reaction of a man who owns someone, or at least believes he does. And then Denzel stepped in, quietly, cleverly, with a plan that actually worked. And watching that unfold was one of the more satisfying moments of the episode, not just because William needed saving, but because it reminded us that William is not alone in this. He has people around him who are paying attention, people who are willing to act. And as we head into episode 7, that support is going to matter more than ever. Because the storm between William, Ben, and Amaranthus is not over. It has barely even started. Everything that was said in episode 6, every accusation and every revelation, is now sitting in the open between these three people. And episode 7 is the episode where they are all going to have to face it directly, with nowhere left to hide and nothing left to pretend. If the scenes between William and Ben were the most dramatic part of episode 6, then the scenes between Ian, Rachel, and Emily were without question the most emotionally heavy. And I say that because what played out between these three people was not just about jealousy or tension or the awkwardness of a complicated past. It was about something much deeper. It was about trust, and what it actually takes to build it between two people who love each other but come from completely different worlds. Rachel knew that Ian had a past with Emily. She knew it before they arrived. She knew it intellectually, the way you can know something without fully feeling the weight of it until it is standing right in front of you. And when Emily appeared, all of that knowledge became real in a way that was impossible to simply reason away. Her anxiety was completely understandable. Anyone who has ever been in a relationship where a past love suddenly reappears knows exactly what Rachel was feeling in those moments. That quiet fear that no matter how much someone loves you now, the history they carry with someone else holds a kind of weight that you can never fully compete with. But Rachel did something remarkable. Even in the middle of her own discomfort, she did not try to stop it. She recognized that preventing Ian from speaking to Emily would not change the truth of what existed between them. It would only damage the trust between her and Ian. So she stepped back, she held herself together, and she let it happen. That kind of emotional maturity is not easy. It is not the kind of thing that feels natural in the moment. It is a choice, a difficult and painful choice, made out of love and out of a deeper understanding of what a relationship actually requires. Now, Ian did not make it easy on her. And that is the part of this storyline that genuinely frustrated me, the reassurance that Rachel needed, the words that would have settled her heart and quieted that fear inside her, came too late. Ian told her that she was the love of his life. He told her that he would never leave her, but he said it after the anxiety had already built up inside her to a painful level. Those words should have come earlier. They should have been the first thing out of his mouth when he saw how Rachel was feeling. Because in a relationship, the timing of reassurance matters just as much as the reassurance itself. Telling someone they are your everything after they have already been quietly falling apart with worry is not the same as telling them before the wound gets deep. But in the end, Ian did say it, and when he finally gave Rachel that full and complete reassurance, something shifted between them. Rachel let Ian and Emily have their conversation, and what came out of that conversation was something that none of us were fully prepared for. Emily, driven by the fear that her son would be killed, entrusted him to Ian and Rachel. She placed her child, the most precious thing she had, into the hands of the woman who now holds Ian's heart. And Ian and Rachel accepted that responsibility without a single moment of hesitation. Not a pause, not a glance at each other to check, just an immediate and unconditional yes. And that moment, more than any declaration of love, more than any dramatic scene, told you exactly what kind of people Ian and Rachel are. It told you exactly what their relationship is built on. And after that, I genuinely do not think there is anything that will break these two apart. They built their trust in the hardest possible way, and it held. That is the kind of foundation that does not easily crack. And now we get to episode 7. And I want to be honest with you because some of what I am about to say is not easy to talk about. There is something coming in this episode that is going to hurt. And based on everything we have seen in the trailer, everything we know from the books, and the way this show has been carefully laying its groundwork all season, I believe we are heading toward one of the most devastating moments of this entire final season. Let's start with Fergus and Marsali. In the trailer we can see that they are being threatened by the public, and the most likely reason for this is the weapons they acquired for Roger, which we saw in episode 6. The community has turned against them. And then in what is clearly one of the most alarming moments of the trailer, Fergus's shop is set on fire. Now on its own, a fire is terrible enough. But the reactions of Marsali, Bree, and Roger in the trailer tell you that this is not just a fire. Something happens inside that fire that goes beyond property damage. Something happens that changes people permanently. And here is where I have to tell you something that book readers already know and that show-only viewers may not be ready for. In the books, Henry Christian, the dwarf son of Marsali and Fergus, whom we saw in episode 6, dies during the fire. He jumps from the burning shop trying to escape the flames, and he does not survive. It is one of the most heartbreaking moments in the entire book series, and I believe that this show is going to take us there. The pieces are all in place. We have seen Henry Christian, we have been shown the fire, we have been shown the reactions of the people who love Fergus and Marsali. Everything is pointing in that direction. However, and this is something I cannot stop thinking about, there is a possibility that the show chooses a different path, because this is the final season, and this season has already shown us something that the books never did, which is Claire's ability to heal with that blue light. We have seen her resurrect, we have watched her bring someone back from the edge of death in a way that felt genuinely supernatural. So is it possible that in the face of Henry Christian's death, Claire steps in and uses that power? Is it possible that the show gives us the horror of that moment, but then pulls back from the full grief of it by letting Claire intervene? I think it is possible. I do not think it is certain. But I think the writers know how much that death costs emotionally, and they may choose to use Claire's ability to soften the blow rather than let it land with its full weight. Either way, Jamie's line in the trailer where he says he feels something bad is happening is almost certainly connected to this. Jamie senses things, he always has. And when Jamie Fraser says something feels wrong, this show has taught us to listen. The news of what happens to Henry Christian is going to reach Jamie and Claire. And watching them carry that grief on top of everything else they are already carrying in this episode is going to be one of the hardest things to watch this season. There is also the matter of Fanny. The trailer suggests that Jamie may have seen Faith in the past, and that this is something that will be discussed with Fanny. And honestly, this thread feels incredibly important to me. Faith is a wound that Jamie and Claire have carried for their entire lives together. She is the daughter they lost, the child who existed for only the briefest moment before she was gone. And if Fanny carries information, memories, or some kind of connection to Faith, then what Jamie and Claire learned through her could be one of the most emotionally significant conversations of the entire season. It could give them something they have never had before, which is a clearer picture of the daughter they never truly got to know. And that kind of closure, or the absence of it, is the kind of thing that stays with you long after the episode ends.